Have you ever been blackout drunk? So drunk that you can't remember anything? If so, be careful. You might awake to find that you've done something terrible, maybe even killed someone. Blackout murders are an interesting rabbit hole that your mind could be aware enough to safely navigate your body to the kitchen, to grab a knife, and to kill your spouse, and yet not have any recollection of it the next morning. It is a thing, and not just with alcohol, but with many drugs, and there is a really interesting connection to demonic oppression and possession as well, at least if you dig deep enough. Alcohol is definitely the most cited drug in this though. It's also interesting because it comes from biblical times and has a rich history. The word alcohol apparently comes from the Arabic word al-kuhl, spelled al-kuhl, which means body-eating spirit, or al-ghal, spelled al-ghawl, which translates to the etymology of the word we know as ghoul, defined as an evil spirit or phantom. And there are other interesting nods as well, such as the old Irish phrase, "First the man takes the drink, then the drink takes the man," and the fact that some drinks are referred to as spirits. And while the word spirits is widely considered to come from the distilling process of some alcoholic drinks, there are some who believe the spirit in a drink is all too literal, that drinking the spirit, or ghoul, is the reason for their very different behavior while drunk. Sober and drunk is like Jekyll and Hyde. A person becomes someone else under the influence, as if something else is inside working the levers. The following 5 stories are all alleged blackout murders. In 2012, Andrew Sumpton met up with Michelle Roberts. They had been drinking heavily, and in the early hours of the following morning, it is believed that Mr. Sumpton's sexual advances were either rebuffed or he couldn't perform, which led to Michelle's brutal murder. While on top of her, Andrew smashed her face in with a statue, knocking out several teeth and breaking her nose. He then stabbed her 24 times with a knife. Andrew went home and then came back, this time lighting the sheets of the bed on fire, which quickly spread throughout the house. Andrew said he was too drunk to remember any of it. He received a 29-year prison sentence. April 15th, 2018, in Iowa, 39-year-old Abraham Roberts got into a heated argument with Agnes Yarley, the mother of one of his children. There were 3 children present at the time, along with Agnes's mother, all witnesses. Abraham and Agnes were in an argument when Abraham grabbed a 9mm Luger handgun from the bedroom. He told Agnes he would kill her before shooting her 5 times, 4 in the chest and 1 in the head. Abraham said he was too drunk to remember that, or attempting to jump the US-Canadian border where immigration and customs caught him. It was Halloween night, October 31st, 2019, in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, when a 19-year-old Jacob Alves went to meet up with some friends at a party. He popped a Xanax, smoked some pot, and drank some rum while waiting to get inside. The last thing he remembers is having a cigarette before waking up in the hospital. He doesn't remember taking out a knife, getting into a brawl, and getting kicked out of the party. He never remembered fighting to get back in, and he certainly didn't remember stabbing several people, sadly, killing one of them. Eugenio Salgado, another man who claimed to be blackout drunk when he killed Graham Downs by repeatedly smashing his head into the pavement. He had no recollection of these events either. Or how about 39-year-old man from Minnesota, Mark Forster, who killed his 8-week-old son. The boy's mother was alarmed to find her baby seizing and turning blue, so she took him to the hospital. The baby had multiple brain bleeds and unfortunately died. The mother told the police that she was concerned about Mark's drinking, which had recently gotten out of hand. While being interrogated, Mark told the police he was worried he sat on the child or hurt him without any recollection, but told the mother sometime later that he was concerned he did something terrible to the child, but couldn't remember what it was. He was blackout drunk, you see. The officials said the baby died from brain damage and bilateral retinal hemorrhages, consistent with violent shaking. There is no shortage of blackout murder stories, people killing people and acting in ways they never would while sober, doing things they don't even remember doing. Is it possible these people could be possessed? I don't think you could find scientific proof, at least none that would stand up in court, but it's not hard to find stories. It would be easy to argue that any kind of drug has a chemical effect on the brain. Alcohol, for example, is a depressant, and conditioning your brain with it often enough could plausibly push somebody into thought patterns and behaviors where they would become increasingly negative, perhaps making them weak and vulnerable, ideal targets for demonic oppression and possession. Maybe that's all it is. I'll tell you one thing though. Me personally, I don't like losing control. Sure, I like the occasional drink, like most people, but the thought of losing control terrifies me. And isn't that what is so terrifying about demonic possession? That you could be a prisoner in your own body, forced to accept whatever nightmare was placed at your feet, completely losing control due to drugs. Does that not share some similarities with possession? It's typically a slow process though, isn't it? Many of us have had addicts in our lives, be it friends or family. Watching that slow descent, how they change into someone different, someone angry, depressed, endlessly digging a deeper hole. Sometimes it leads to suicide, an overdose. Other times they commit life-changing crime. Again, nobody can scientifically prove that an addict has been demonically possessed, but there are no shortage of stories where people become something different and do terrible things not thought to be part of their character. Whether someone is literally demonic possessed or simply chemically altered by substance abuse almost feels like semantics at this point, because in the end, their personalities and boundaries were so dramatically distorted that taking an innocent life was something they desired to do. Strange, they can't remember it though. Perhaps there really was another driver in the seat.